Welcome back, everybody. I'm Brendan Dickinson, and this is my list of the top 10 best games made with Unity going into 2021. So Hollow Knight is a game that's been described as Dark Souls meets Metroid. It's a 2D Metroidvania action-adventure game developed and published by Team Cherry. It's actually amazing to me that only 3 people worked on this game. It's been released on Windows, Mac, Linux, Switch, PS4, and Xbox One. Development was partially funded through a Kickstarter campaign that raised over 57,000 Australian or $44,000 USD. It follows a nameless knight as they traverse an ancient plague-infested kingdom inhabited by various insects known as Hallownest. As the knight ventures through the ruins, you must uncover the source of something called the infection, which has caused all the ruin around you. The idea that initially prompted the creation of Hollow Knight originated in a game jam, Ludum Dare, in 2013, where 2 of the game's developers, Ari Gibson and William Pellin, developed a game called Hungry Knight, in which the character that would later become the knight kills bugs to stave off starvation. Some influences for this game include Faxanadu, Metroid, Zelda 2, and Mega Man X. Really, they wanted to replicate the sense of wonder and discovery of those games from their childhood. So when talking about Hollow Knight, we really should focus on the mechanics and the gameplay. The platforming and the combat is challenging, but fair. In it, you start the game with 5 skulls, which represent your health. If you get hit by an enemy or fall into spikes, you'll lose at least 1 skull. You regain your health by using focus, which you get when you hit enemies. The game never really feels unfair. When you die, it's because you messed up. You didn't observe your surroundings, or maybe you didn't understand the enemy's moves well enough. Surviving means learning from your mistakes, which makes progress feel very rewarding. The developers believed that controlling the character was the most important part of players' enjoyment for the game, so they based their knight's movement on Mega Man X. Basically, this was meant to make the player feel that any hit they took could have been avoided right up until the last second. While playing, you can collect different charms on your travels, which give you unique powers and abilities, such as longer reach or a double jump. Next, we can talk about the art. I think it's pretty obvious this game has a fantastic art style. It helps to enhance the atmosphere of each area. In order to create the game's art, Gibson's hand-drawn sketches were scanned directly into the game engine. The music and the sound design also makes the game just come alive. You'll hear a full orchestral score that matches the mood of each area. This, in conjunction with the art, really helps create this world, this atmosphere and mood that defines Hollow Knight. The level design is also incredibly good. Every area is interconnected and filled with secret passageways and hidden items. Sometimes you'll find a hidden connection from one area of the massive world to another. Other times, you'll solve a short puzzle that rewards you with a helpful item or a charm. It's a great design because it makes you want to take your time exploring. Overall, Hollow Knight is just an unforgettable experience. It's hard to describe. It has a little bit of everything: action, adventure, mysterious story that slowly unravels over the length of the game. Some parts feel really lighthearted, while other moments are really, really dark. But the underlying drive is a feeling of progress. The more you explore and fight, the stronger your character gets, and you as the player also grow and gain confidence. Hollow Knight is going to end up giving you 30 plus hours of entertainment, and if you are a completionist, it's going to be double that at least. And at $15 on Steam, the amount of content that you get and free content updates seem too good to be true. It's not uncommon to find this on sale either, so keep an eye out. Additionally, a sequel, Hollow Knight Silksong, is in development and set to be released on Windows, Mac, Linux, and the Switch. So we have that to look forward to. Our next game is the Kerbal Space Program. Kerbal Space Program is literally rocket science. It is a spaceflight simulation game developed and published by Squad for Windows, Mac, Linux, PS4, and Xbox One. You'll start your own space program and sling your Kerbals, which are these humorous green humanoid-looking creatures, across the solar system. Of course, it's easier said than done. Keeping your Kerbals from exploding or getting lost in space requires a lot of practice and planning. Careful planning and proper execution gives some of the most rewarding feelings achievable in video games. It focuses on real physics, which means you have to construct a proper spaceship and send it to outer space, and it's an extremely challenging and fun task. This game features a realistic orbit physics engine, which allows for various real-life orbital maneuvers. And I've been playing this game since 2012, before it was even on Steam, And over that time, I've put hundreds of hours of playtime into this game. Some popular mods have received support and inclusion in the game by Squad. People and agencies in the space industry have also taken an interest in the game, including NASA, the European Space Agency, Peter Beck, and even Elon Musk. From your space center, players can create rockets, aircraft, space planes, rovers, and even boats. And really, the main goal is just to avoid partial or catastrophic failure. You'll control your spacecraft in 3 dimensions with very little assistance other than the SAS system, the Stability Assist System. Assuming everything goes right, a spacecraft can enter orbit, or you can even travel to other celestial bodies. So at this point, there's 3 different game modes in Kerbal Space Program. There's the campaign, the science mode, and sandbox mode. In campaign, you're just going to be completing objectives and going through contracts in order to build up your space program. In the science mode, you'll go through a technology tree where you'll unlock different components that you can use for your ships. In sandbox mode, which is my personal favorite, you don't have to worry about money at all or parts. Everything's available to you from the get-go, but there's not really any objective. It's whatever objective you've made for yourself. I know my first objective was to get a ship off the ground onto the moon and then back home, and this turned out to be an extremely hard thing to do. And this leads me into something that you should know about the game, which is that it has an extremely high learning curve. I mean, we were talking about rocket science. Yes, it's simplified through this game, but at the end of the day, you're putting together a spaceship, you're sending it into orbit. You might even be landing it on the moon or sending it back home. Another cool thing that you can do is Kerbals can go on an EVA, or basically a spacewalk. They can leave the ship and they can use their EVA suit propellant system to maneuver in space. While on an EVA, you can repair landing legs, wheels. You can also just step on the moon and place a flag there, or take a surface sample. And while the game is not a perfect simulation of reality, it has been praised for its accurate orbital mechanics. All objects in the game except the celestial bodies are simulated using Newtonian dynamics. It is a very tough game, and it requires a lot of patience and learning. But for those people that are interested in a challenge and that are interested in building a spaceship and going and exploring the solar system, then this is the game for you. Lastly, Kerbal Space Program 2 has been announced for a 2022 release, so definitely keep an eye out for that. The next game on the list is Escape from Tarkov. Now, even though Escape from Tarkov is in closed beta right now, you can go to the website, sign up for an account, pre-order the game, and get access to it right now. This also means that, yes, there's probably going to be unstable netcode, frequent lag spikes, maybe some other bugs that are in the game, but it is in beta, so that's something to keep in mind. Escape from Tarkov has taken the Twitch world by storm. It's a multiplayer first-person shooter game developed by Battlestate Games for Windows. It blends elements from survival, battle royale, and RPGs in order to create an entirely unique experience. And really, this is an innovative shooter that proves large-scale multiplayer is possible with Unity. A big reason this game is on this list is because it looks so good. The high attention to detail with regard to the guns, the add-ons, and just the gameplay in general. The gameplay has been described as realistic and hardcore. In it, you can choose to go on raids either by yourself or with a group of people. Once in game, you'll be given an extraction point on the other side of the map, and you have to fight your way against players and other non-player characters in order to reach that point and escape. Along the way, in addition to combat, you'll also be able to find loot, and once you are extracted, you'll be able to store all your loot and stash it for future raids, or you can even sell it to other players in a virtual flea market. When you die in a raid, though, you lose everything, including the loot and equipment that you brought into the raid. Each raid lasts between 15 and 45 minutes, depending on the map, and could contain up to 14 different players. The inventory system in this game is something impressive. Every one of your dozens of assault rifles, SMGs, and shotguns can be broken down into its constituent parts, like gas tubes, dust covers, grips, rails, sights, stocks. Just so many different things, and it becomes almost overwhelming. But it's also something that makes Tarkov very unique. You'll also be given control over how fast you walk and how far you crouch down, which are things that you don't really see in a lot of games nowadays. The developers have also published a live-action miniseries called Raid on YouTube, so I'll put a link to those down in the description below. Overall, I'd say this game is great for people who love high-octane, hardcore, all-or-nothing gameplay. Next, we have Cuphead. I remember when Cuphead first started making the rounds, and I immediately was in love with the art style. It can be really hard to innovate with a 2D side-scrolling arcade shooter, but this development team was able to do that with this unique hand-drawn animation. The animation comes from the golden era of cartoons from the mid-20th century, and it's really, really cool to see in motion. So Cuphead is a run-and-gun style video game developed and published by studio MDHR. It was inspired by the rubber hose style of animation used in the cartoons of the 1930s, such as the work of Fleischer Studios and Walt Disney Animation Studios. Cuphead's gameplay is centered around continual boss fights, interspersed with run-and-gun levels. You can choose to play this with 1 or 2 players cooperatively, and while most boss battles take place on land, several of them are also fought in airplanes. All the levels are accessible through a top-down perspective overworld, and since its release, it has won numerous different awards. I will say that there were several times when I was playing this game that I got very frustrated because it is extremely difficult, and you end up dying over and over and over again. But the things that I like about those kind of games is that you have to learn and grow, and when you do actually succeed, it's much more meaningful. Also, Netflix has announced that there's going to be an animated series based on the game called The Cuphead Show, so keep an eye out for that. Next game on the list, Hearthstone. I wanted to add this game because it's one of the few games where a AAA studio, Blizzard, decided to take a game engine like Unity and was very successful with it. Hearthstone is a free-to-play online digital collectible card game developed and published by Blizzard Entertainment. Hearthstone builds upon the existing lore of their Warcraft series and uses the same elements, characters, and relics. It's been released on Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android, and it has cross-platform play, which means that you can be playing on an iPad and somebody else can be playing you on a PC. The only restrictions are geographical region accounts. The game is a turn-based card game between 2 opponents using constructed decks of 30 cards along with a selected hero and unique power. In it, you'll use your limited mana crystals to play abilities or summon minions to attack the opponent. In the end, your goal is to destroy the opponent's hero. The game has several different modes, which include casual and ranked matches, arena battles, single-player adventures, tavern brawls, and battlegrounds. Hearthstone's become a really popular esport game, with cash prize tournaments hosted by Blizzard and other organizers. And one of the main draws of this game is just how smooth it is. The art, the music, everything kind of blends together in a really good way. The cards feel physical, and they still look like cards. The animations are fantastic. The voice acting is really good. When you take a really big minion and you slam it onto the board, it just feels like it has so much weight, and it feels right. It's a lot of the little polished things that might go unnoticed by most people that really take it up to the next level. And Hearthstone is free to play, so if you haven't played it yet, you may as well download it and give it a try. Since we've made it halfway, I wanted to take a quick break and just say if you're enjoying the video, please leave a like. If you want to see more content like this, go ahead and subscribe. It really helps me figure out what content you guys like. In my next video, I'm planning to do something very similar to this, but focused on Unreal Engine games. And on to the next one. Tabs, or Totally Accurate Battle Simulator. I added this more as a personal thing than anything else. I have been a huge fan of Wilhelm Nyland for at least the last 6 years since he first made Air Brawl, and I've continued to follow his development of different games throughout that time. So Tabs is a ragdoll physics battle simulation video game developed by Landfall Games. It's really a satire of the battle simulator genre. It's available on Windows, Mac, and Xbox One. So there's 2 game modes. There's Campaign and Sandbox. In Campaign, you're given a limited amount of in-game money to build an army in order to defeat the enemy force. In Sandbox, you don't have any of those limitations, and you can set up your own fights between AI-driven armies. Really, Tabs is all about the goofy chaos that ensues when you throw something like chickens against T-Rexes. There was a recent update added called the Unit Creator, where you can actually create your own units, give them abilities, and clothing and weapons from the already existing Tabs units. The game was originally made during a week-long game jam in a Swedish castle. In the end, I think Tabs is a fun, goofy addition to this list that everybody should try. Next, we have Rimworld. So Rimworld is an indie top-down construction and management simulation game by Montreal-based developer Ludon Studios. I'm not exactly sure sure how to pronounce that. It was originally called Eclipse Colony and released as a Kickstarter crowdfunding project. The objective of the game is to ensure the survival of a colony of people fighting against various environmental or internal events. A lot of the difficulty, as well as the critical acclaim for the game, comes from its unpredictability. Through randomly generated events and extensively designed and customized world, in my opinion, the characters are really what make this game great. You can think of the characters kind of like Sims, where they have a mood, they require food, rest, shelter. They're also going to need, places to sit while they're eating, and take some time to do recreational stuff like stargazing, cloud watching, or even playing chess. If you fail to meet their needs, then they could undergo mental breaks, such as going into a broken daze or even going berserk and attacking other characters. They also have the ability to have social relationships with each other, and a poor social relationship might result in fights. There are also animals in the game which can be controlled by the player after being domesticated or tamed. Certain animals can even be taught commands, which vary from obeying a colonist to defending them if they're attacked, or even, deciding to carry or store items. I've heard a lot of people compare Rimworld to Dwarf Fortress, which is a similar kind of management survival game that's a little bit older and uses ASCII as the art. The things you can do in Rimworld are vast and fun. You can decorate buildings and furniture out of any material. You can create weapons like swords, pistols, or laser guns in order to defend your colony. The thing is, in the end, your colony is probably not going to make it. Only people with a huge deal of experience typically win. But again, that's part of what makes the game fun. Win or lose, you created a life for your colonists, and there's a bunch of stories around that you can tell your friends. It's a game that's endlessly replayable. I remember the first time I played Rimworld, and I decided to name all my characters, all my colonists, after my friends, and that led to some absolutely hilarious situations ensuing. I'd be remiss if I didn't include at least one mobile game on this list, and that's why I had to add Monument Valley. Really, I'm putting both Monument Valley 1 and 2 on here. Monument Valley is one of the biggest mobile games of its time, and if it wasn't on this list, you probably wouldn't know that Unity was the engine driving it. It is an indie puzzle game developed by Ustwo Games. It has a relaxing vibe, massive attention to detail, and lots of satisfying puzzles. It's on the shorter side, but I feel like if you are interested in mobile games in the least, you should at least give this game a try. There aren't a lot of mobile games that stick with you, but this is definitely one that does. It's not really a game that you play to win or even finish. It's just a game that you play to enjoy the music, the sounds, the beautiful art style, and the meditative play. In it, you lead the Princess Ida through mazes of optical illusions and impossible objects while manipulating the world around her in order to reach various platforms. It has an innovative gameplay loop and is quite charming and fun. Also, if you've already played these and you've enjoyed them, as of September 2019, Ustwo Games has a small team that's actually working on Monument Valley 3, so look out for that in the future. Next is Outer Wilds. So Outer Wilds is a more recent game. It's a 2019 action-adventure game developed by Mobius Digital. You can find this on Windows, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4. In the game, you explore a solar system stuck in a 22-minute time loop. As you continually repeat this cycle, you'll gain knowledge, and that knowledge will help you on later loops. Outer Wilds began as Alex Beecham's USC Interactive Media and Games Division master's thesis and grew into a full production commercial release. Basically, he wanted to create an objectiveless open-world game where exploration would satiate the player's questions without feeling aimless. It was the first title to be supported on the game-centric crowdfunding site Fig, and while this might not be a longer game as far as playtime is concerned, it'll make you feel really intensely things that no other game has ever made you feel. You'll keep thinking about it days later and trying to find people to talk to about it. In your fragile spacecraft made of wood and scrap metal, you'll be exploring the local solar system, looking for ancient ruins left behind by another alien race who disappeared long ago. And no surprise, navigating a fragile spacecraft through tiny gravity wells using fully Newtonian flight system and walking around those tiny planets in microgravity is really unnerving. You feel a sense of precariousness. Outer Wilds uses this and other mechanics, along with brilliant art and sound design, to increase this experience. Ultimately, Outer Wilds is a story of courage, tenderness, and camaraderie. It's a game where if you know what you're doing, you can complete it within half an hour. But it's the journey that teaches you what you need to know. The mechanics are all very simple and natural, and they all fit perfectly into the game's lore. You never really get the sense that you were meant to find anything. It was just there, existing. It really is a game that everybody should play. On to the last one. Beat Saber. So I wanted to include a VR game, and if I had to pick one, it's going to be Beat Saber. Beat Saber is a virtual reality rhythm game developed and published by Beat Games and takes place in a neon environment featuring the player slicing blocks representing musical beats with a pair of contrasting sabers. It is available on PlayStation 4 and Windows and supports most virtual reality headsets. If you're in any way into rhythm games and you happen to have a VR headset, 100% you should be playing Beat Saber. I know there's a lot of other games out there like Audio Shield, but I think this is the king of them all. The built-in songs in Beat Saber are all highly polished and a great experience to play. You can play them from easy difficulty all the way up to Expert Plus. When I first had my friends come over and play it, it did not take them very long to go from easy to hard, all the while having a lot of fun. Beat Saber also has song packs that you can buy if you want specific music, such as Monster Cat, Panic at the Disco, Linkin Park, and several more. One of the really cool things about Beat Saber is that it's been built so that people can add tracks themselves. So if there was a song that you wanted to play in Beat Saber, but it wasn't available by default, you could create the file in order to create the track and then play it inside of Beat Saber. Personally, I have played hundreds and hundreds of songs in Beat Saber that weren't supported in the default game, but were made by the community. And this helps with replayability and with finding songs that are even more difficult than the most difficult songs that are built into the game. Again, these are just my top 10 Unity games. There are so many more games out there that are absolutely incredible that you should check out. It was really hard for me to only pick 10 games, so here's a few honorable mentions. Also amazing games, they just didn't quite make the top 10. So that about wraps it up for my list of the top 10 best Unity games. I hope you enjoyed it and you learned something. If you did, go ahead, click the like button. If you want to see more of this kind of content, go ahead and subscribe. And as always, I hope you're staying warm, staying healthy, and I'll see you next time.